Do you have a business that serves your local community? Are you trying to take your business to the next level? Do you struggle to understand your business numbers? Well, stop working harder thinking you're going to make more money. That's not how it works. Each week, we go over how to understand and leverage your business numbers to not only create more sales, but more importantly, how to create more profits. Remember, it isn't about how much you sell. It's about how much you keep at the end of the day. My name is Tammy, and I'm on a mission to help badass business owners like yourself put more money in your pocket. So whether you're a badass or a badass in the making, let's get this party started. Hey, badass business owners, welcome back to the show. Today is Thursday. It's Know Your Numbers, and we're going to talk about inventory. And I was realizing it's been a while since I've talked about inventory. Now, before you go moving on to the next episode, let me just tell you, inventory is anything in your business that you have stacked up, ready to use somewhere, somehow. And some of you have more inventory than others. Obviously, brick and mortar stores tend to have a lot more inventory. People that sell online tend to have a lot more inventory. But believe it or not, there are a lot of service-based businesses that have money tied up in inventory as well. So I want to make sure that you don't dismiss this in your business either. Now, the reason that I want to talk about inventory is because it's something that when you think about inventory itself is either helping you create sales or it's costing you profits. Now that's going to sound really weird because here's the thing. It's like a necessary evil of your business. You need the inventory because you need to be able to sell it. But yet at the same time it costs money to buy the inventory. So when you think about the whole chicken egg thing, majority of times you are going to buy the inventory so that way you can turn around and sell it. Now, there are some of you that you don't even purchase the inventory until someone does pay you first. But for the vast majority of inventory, I would say it's probably 25-75. For 75% of you, you're going to be investing in the inventory first, turning around and selling it. Where there are some service-based businesses, you collect at least half the money or partial payment to be able to pay for that inventory. But either way, inventory is money, right? You exchange money for this inventory. And so you'll hear me a lot of times, I'll say that inventory is like having money sitting on the shelf. So if you have a garage full of products, that's just money sitting in your garage that isn't being used in your business. Okay, it's money being held up. If you sell products, and for some of you, you sell a product, but yet you sell 5, 10, 20, 30 plus versions of that item, like different colors, different sizes. Think of like a t-shirt, for example. If you carry all of that inventory, you could have small, medium, large, extra large, 2X, 3X, and then you've got 10 colors. And now all of a sudden you have all these shirts in inventory, and that is just tons of money being tied up. So inventory can be a very dangerous thing. And, there are people, for example, that sell clothing. All right, some of the big businesses right now are where people sell clothing, and part of it is they have to hold on to all of this inventory in order to be able to sell it. Well, the problem is if you have to buy a bunch of inventory to keep those stocked, then guess what? A big chunk of your profits go to doing that. And meanwhile, that inventory continues to stock up because you don't necessarily sell through all of your inventory. So what happens is slowly it overtakes you to where you go from a couple $100 extra to thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars of inventory that's kind of sitting off to the side. So inventory, you could overbuy, like for example, I'm having some flooring installed. My nephew's helping me out. We're putting some flooring in, and we kind of estimated how much we needed. And it looks like we have 3 extra cases of this flooring. Well, if I was just to take that flooring and stick it in the closet or stick it in the garage or stick it somewhere and not do anything with it, that is money just sitting on the floor, right? Because the odds are I'm not going to rip up that floor. Yeah, I might save it for a rainy day, but do I need 3 boxes of it? Whereas if I return it, I at least can get my money back. But if I just let it sit in the garage or somewhere else, that's just money that I have decided to walk away from because it's just going to sit there. Does that make sense? And that's what a lot of you guys are kind of doing in your business. So it's really important that we're paying attention to our inventory. And I'm going to go down 2 different tracks with this, so bear with me. First off, let's talk about not having enough inventory. So it's kind of opposite of what I was just talking about. Let's just say you have a product and you tend to sell 20 of these things a week. All right. So you sell this item A. We'll just call it item A. Let's say you sell item A, replace that with one of the things that you sell. Let's say you sell item A 20 times a week. Well, you know that in order for you to be able to sell 20 of those a week, you need to have 20 of those a week. So what would happen if you don't have enough inventory? What happens when you only have 15 of those? Well, if you normally sell 20 a week and you've only got 15, the most you can sell is 15. So now all of a sudden you're cutting your sales back by 25% because you have 25% less inventory of this particular item. So in which case you need more inventory in order to sell it. So who's to say that if you didn't have 25 of these on hand, that you wouldn't be able to sell more than 20? Maybe the only reason you sell 20 is because you never have more than 20 to be able to sell. So one of the mistakes that people make is they don't have either A, enough inventory, or B, they never speculate with what could be because they're so worried about having additional extra inventory, they never push their sales. So I want to make sure that when I talk about sales, money sitting on the shelf because you have too much inventory, I also don't want you to stifle your sales. I want you to find what the happy medium is. And that's where this thing called turns comes in. And this is where big businesses and big companies, they look at how often they turn it. So it's not so much that and turn just means that if you buy one, you always have one on stock. So, you replace it 1-to-1. So you're turning it. Whereas let's just say you sell 20 a week and you've got 40 of them. Well, now you've got 2 weeks of turns. So you got 2 weeks of inventory on there. So what I'm trying to tell you is you don't necessarily need to have 50, 60, 70 weeks worth of inventory, but you need to find out, do you need to have 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? Which one is going to allow you to be able to maximize your sales, but at the same time as you can get rid of the inventory really quickly. So if you have 3 to 4 weeks of sales on something, for example, this 20, if you sell 20 a week and you carry 60 of them, you have 60 on hand at any given time, you know that if worst case scenario, more than likely you'll sell out of it within the next 3 weeks. Whereas if you had 5,000 of them, even at 20 a week, which might have sounded great in the beginning, but then you got some awesome, fantastic deal and you went out and you bought thousands of them. Well, guess what? It's going to take you a lot longer to get through that. Now you've got money just sitting there that could be creating more sales, more energy, more advertising, more something else. And that's a waste of having that money there. Hopefully that's making some sense to you. Okay. So it's really important. And I've got a whole nother episode where I talk about turns a little bit more. And we'll talk about it again, I'm sure, in the future. Today, I just want to have a general conversation about inventory. So part of it, like I said, you need inventory to be able to create the sales, and you can't run it so tight that you can't create more sales. And you have to try to push those boundaries with how much you have so that way you can do it. So for example, if we go back to the t-shirt example we said earlier with the small, medium, large, extra large, and the different colors. Well, if you know your number one seller are large blue, large blue, then I would hope that your inventory would be a lot more large blue and you have fewer of the other sizes if you don't sell them right. So you might have 2 of the smalls, you might have 6 of the mediums, 20 of the large blue, and then another 5 and 4 of the next sizes. So it's about adjusting the inventory to fit what the sales are for that particular item. And if you buy in bulk, because I know sometimes I'll get this, they're like, well, Tammy, you don't understand. I have to buy them all at the same time. I do understand. And for most things, it's not all things, but for most things, you can mix up how much you buy of what. So I'd rather see you go out and make sure that you're being even across it. Now, when I say even, I don't mean that you get 20, 20, 20, 20. That's the wrong even. Goes back to those turns, weeks of sales. So if you know that if you get 5 of this one and that's going to give you 5 weeks of supply, then I'd rather see you take the thing that you sell 20 of and get 5 weeks and order 100 of those. So you might only order 5 of one, but 20 of another, but you even out the weeks of supply. And this is why it's important that you use a spreadsheet or a piece of paper and you calculate out the weeks of supply when you're ordering. because it's a huge mistake a lot of people make, is they think they have to buy everything in equal amounts, and that is so wrong. You don't sell them in equal amounts, so you need to adjust. I'd rather see you order 5 cases of something you sell really well and only 1 case of something else. Now, it's hard to do without being specific examples, but if anybody happens to do inventory and they're really, feel like they're over their head with how they're ordering it, or they're really screwing up, don't forget, we can do a one-on-one coaching, and we can talk about that. We can kind of look at the numbers for you if needed. Inventory is one of those things that I really take seriously. I really do thank Home Depot in those days, because of the way we used to order, and we had this machine that would help, and it really drove in the concept of spreading out those weeks of supply, that when I had my ice cream shop, I took those same concepts, and even though I didn't have the fancy program that they had, I created my own spreadsheet, and guess what? Every single Sunday, I was dedicated to doing inventory. So I would go through and I would actually inventory every single thing of ice cream. And then I would calculate out what I needed to order to be able to have. I would always try to keep 2 to 3 weeks of supply, but everything was different, right? If our number one seller is mint chocolate chip, I would have tons of the mint chocolate chip on stock. Well, someone else might have 1 container, maybe 2. But I tried to balance that out, so that way, if worst case scenario, everything would sell down at the same time. And that's really what you're trying to look at, is how, if you all of a sudden had to shut the doors, could everything sell down at the same time? Or would you be left over with tons of other stuff? Which kind of brings us to money sitting on the shelf again. Because one of the things that tends to happen is we tend to stock up all this crap, okay? Now, maybe you can look at it today and you're going, oh my God, I've got hundreds of thousands of dollars, whatever the case may be, tied up on this inventory, but I can't just discount it, I can't just give it away. I want you to think about that for a minute. You have all of this money sitting on the shelf, but you don't want to discount it, you don't want to give it away. Here's the thing. Right now, that stuff sitting on your shelf is making you zero, okay? It's doing nothing. Whereas if you were to turn around and you could run a discount, do a fire sale, just blow it out, you get to convert it back into money. Because here's the thing, if it sits in your garage till the end of time, it's never going to become money. It's just wasted money you've decided to walk away from. You've decided to, I'm going to flush this $100 bill down the toilet because I'm too stubborn to take 50 cents for that dollar. Okay, here's the thing. Take the 50 cents for the dollar, because at least that's 50 cents in your hand. When you just flush away the dollar, you've got nothing. All right. And if you watch The Prophet, you'll see him do it all the time. Whenever he takes over businesses with backed up inventory, he's always making them sell it for like $1, $2, whatever the case may be, out on the streets. And he does that for a reason, because he understands that inventory means absolutely nothing to you if it's just sitting on the shelf. And here's the thing, it doesn't free up the cash to buy stuff that can create new stuff. Have you ever wanted to go into something or buy something or add something to your mix, but you just didn't have the money to buy it? Well, guess what? If you go to that old inventory and you turn around and you sell it, let's just say you sell it for half. Let's say you have $200, you need $100 to buy some stuff. Well, you have $200 to $300 sitting in back inventory that's not doing anything. Well, if you were to turn around and sell that for pennies on the dollar, or say for half, and all of a sudden you can create new money, so you can create $100 to go buy something new, but now you can take that $100 and you can invest it in something that sells. Guess what? And now you sell it, and then you return it, and you buy more of it, and you buy more of it, and pretty soon you've basically taken all of that bad inventory. Yes, you got less for it, but you were able to convert it into new inventory that sells and that you can sell repeatedly. So now you're creating even more sales and even more profit. Whereas when it was just sitting in the garage, it's making no money at all, no profit. Where if you could convert it into new money, new inventory, new profits. I hope that makes sense, because it's really important to know that money just sitting there does nothing for you to grow your business. And one of the things that we all need is we need more money to invest in our business. Remember last week when I asked the question, what would you do with $1,000? Well, I'm going to bet there's some of you listening right now today that have $500, $1,000 that you could easily create in your business to go do whatever it is you want to do with that $1,000 if you just go deal with the inventory that's sitting in boxes or on a shelf somewhere. Just sell it for half, sell it for part, sell it for whatever you need to sell it for to be able to create that money that you can use to put into advertising or to go buy some equipment or whatever you were going to use that $1,000 for. So get it off the shelves, off of wherever you've got it hidden, garage, whatever, storage unit, and go convert it into money that you can spend and put back into the business. Now, one more point I want to make when it comes to inventory is if I was to ask you how much money you have in your inventory today, could you tell me that number? Now, I'm going to bet for some of you, the answer is yes. You probably already said it. But for a vast majority of people, when I ask them how much money they have tied up in inventory, they're like, well, I don't know, maybe 10 grand, whatever, 5 grand, $100, whatever the case may be. Once again, pulling numbers out your butt does not make them true. All right. It's very important that you do inventory on a regular basis, that you write out a sheet. You can have it handwritten on a piece of paper. You could do it in a spreadsheet, whatever the case may be. You need to do your inventory at minimum once a month, or depending upon your business and how you do your turns, you might have to do it once a week. I did my inventory every single week just because I was trying to I'm really into turns about getting that going. And that's how I did my orders whenever I could, is every week, every other week. And I wanted to stay on top of that. There's some businesses that you do it on a monthly basis. That's just how you happen to do it. But you need to know how much money you have in inventory. You need to be able to say, I've got $5,000 tied up in this stuff. Not what you think you have. I think I have $5,000. And then if we were to go count it and all of a sudden I look at you because you've got $8,000, $9,000, you're going to have this look of first, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed because I was wrong. And then guess what? Then it's really going to feel bad because it's not about being embarrassed with me. It's about the fact that you've been sitting there with $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 worth of dead money sitting wherever you've got it sitting. And I think that some of you guys have no clue as to how much money you have sitting in your inventory today. So whatever the case may be, if you paid for it, if it's your money being tied up, I need you to go count it. If you haven't counted it in a long time or you've never counted it, then I want you to go make sure, that needs to be a top priority for you in this coming week. If you're listening to this and you have no idea whatsoever how much money you have tied up in your inventory, do not go. Do not collect $200. You need to make that a priority in your business to find out how much money you have tied up. You need to know how much money is sitting in there so that you can make some good decisions right away with how are you going to free up that money in your business, okay? Because it does you no good to have hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars being tied up that you can't use in your business. You want $1,000 in your business? You have it. You just have to go get it and exchange it for money. It's like going on a trip to Europe and converting your money into whatever currency for whatever country you were in. Then you come back and you still have it in the other currency. You can't go to the 7-Eleven and spend it. All right, here's one. If you've never traveled, it's like going to Vegas or any casino, converting your money into chips, and then you get home. Have you ever done that? You got home from a Vegas trip or from a casino trip, and you reach in your pocket and you've got a $5 chip or a $25 chip or a $100 chip or whatever the case may be, and then you realize it's completely useless. If you went from Missouri to Vegas and you get back to Missouri with a $100 chip from the Las Vegas Strip, you might as well have left the $100 in Vegas, because that $100 chip is zero good to you until you either A, have a friend who goes to Vegas and can convert, he can buy it off of you. Okay. B, you take another trip to Vegas. Okay, maybe it's motivation for you to go to Vegas. Okay, but otherwise, it's a souvenir. It's a very expensive souvenir, because unless you find a way to convert it, it does you no good. Well, your inventory is the exact same thing. All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping this up. There's so much more. Inventory is like a very nuanced thing with your business. And I can tell you that if you carry a lot of inventory or you have a lot of different product items, this is huge when it comes to the profitability in your business. You're not going to be an expert tomorrow, but the more you dive in and the more you understand and the more you convert that inventory and the more you turn that inventory and the more you learn how to let that inventory create more sales for you and how to let that inventory create more profit for you. Sure, if you do a fire sale and you get rid of stuff, you're thinking, oh, I've hurt my margin. No, you hurt your margin already. But because that's a good point. I want to make sure I come back to that. If you think that you're going to hurt your cost of goods because you discounted that stuff and you sold it for less, you might hurt your annual, but guess what? You already took the loss. You already paid for that stuff a while back. You already hurt your margins when you first bought it, because that's when you you put it under your cost of goods is when you bought it. So if you're sitting on it 3, 4, 5 months later, it's actually not going to hurt. It's actually going to increase your profit margins because you're not having to buy the stuff you're creating sales. You're creating sales for something that you have no product cost because you've already paid the product cost. So now it's pure sales. Does that make sense? Okay, because the more you play with the numbers and the more you understand this, you pay for that cost back at the time you bought it. So if you only did $100 in sales and you bought $100 of inventory, guess what? You made no money. You lost money because you hadn't even paid your expenses yet. Whereas if today you sell inventory that you've already had, there is no product cost because you've already owned it. You've already captured it. You already own it. So now it's pure margin. And it will work its way out in the wash when you look at the year or the lifetime stats or whatever the case may be. Just sell it. It does not hurt you. And if that part really confuses you, feel free to reach out and I'll be glad to explain it better. If it's something that you find to be very important. Inventory, I'm telling you, if you carry inventory, if you have a brick and mortar store of any kind, if you sell products online, whatever the case may be, inventory can make or break your business, and it could be the exact reason why you're broke, like we talked about on the last episode. It absolutely is a gateway to your profits, and whether you're profitable or you're not profitable, it plays a huge role. The more you can pay attention to your inventory, I'm telling you, big box retailers know their inventory like the back of their hand, because big box retailers have anywhere between $8 to $12 million sitting in inventory at any given time. And if you don't think they to pay attention to that stuff moving in and moving out, you're crazy, because they got to get that $8 to $12 million to make money for them. So inventory is huge, 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 huge. All right. With that, I'm thinking right now, reading my notes, I'm definitely out of here. And I appreciate you guys listening to the show. I really do. I was looking at some of the feedback that people are leaving on iTunes and in the reviews. I'm so glad this stuff resonates with you guys. It really warms my heart. Anytime that you guys email me or you leave a review that I happen to come across, or what some of you guys are listening on YouTube, because we put it on there, I appreciate it. So I just really love the feedback. It inspires me. It helps me want to come out here and help you guys even more. So I love it. All right, with that, I'm out of here. Stop listening, and we will talk again next episode. Bye for now.
Okay, badass business owner, don't you think it is time that you learn how to read your profit and loss income statement? Now, I know you don't have time. I know you hate numbers. I know you're afraid of what you're going to find. But it is time to suck it up, buttercup, and learn to read and understand the most important report in your business. Your profit and loss income statement shows you the flow of money in and out of your business. Don't you think it's time that you started to pay attention? Now get your free, quick guide on how to read your profit and loss income statement at profitandlossguide.com, or just click the show notes. There's a link in there for you. What are you waiting for? You're a badass business owner, aren't you?